70 years of automatic transmissions, 15 different designs, from the 2-speed Powerglide in 1950 to the 10-speed 10L90 in 2017. But only 3 of these transmissions can handle 500,000 miles without a rebuild. The rest fail between 150,000 and 250,000 miles. Some fail even sooner. If you're building a project car, swapping an LS engine, or buying a used GM truck, you need to know which transmission will survive and which one will destroy your budget. The 4L60E is everywhere, but it's also the most common failure. The 4L80E is bulletproof, but it's 70 pounds heavier. The 6L80 is modern and efficient, but it won't fit in most classic cars without major surgery. Over the next 18 minutes, I'll show you every GM automatic transmission from 1950 to today, strength ratings, failure points, swap compatibility, and which one you should actually use. This channel exists to prevent expensive mistakes. I use documented failure data, transmission builder testimony, swap forms with verified builds, NHTSA recall databases. No guesswork, no brand bias, no marketing claims. If you're planning an engine swap, buying a used truck, or trying to figure out which transmission can handle 450 horsepower without exploding, this is for you. Let's begin. GM has built automatic transmissions for 70 years. The Powerglide launched in 1950, 2 speeds, simple, lightweight, still used by drag racers today. The Turbo 400 launched in 1964, 3 speeds, heavy duty, the transmission that powered muscle cars, trucks, and even Rolls-Royces. The 700R4 launched in 1982, 4 speeds with overdrive, the first modern GM transmission, also the first to fail catastrophically when abused. The 4L80E launched in 1991, electronically controlled, based on the Turbo 400, rated at 440 pound-feet, still in production until 2013. The 6L80 launched in 2006, 6 speeds, compact, efficient, but tall, won't fit in most classic cars without cutting the floor. The 10L90 launched in 2017, 10 speeds, co-developed with Ford, the most advanced transmission GM has ever built. 15 transmissions total, but only a few matter for swaps and long-term reliability. Here's what you need to know. Powerglide, 1950 to 1973. The Powerglide is the simplest automatic transmission GM ever built. 2 forward gears, 1 reverse, cast iron case until 1962, aluminum case from 1962 onward. If you're looking for a Powerglide, get a 1962 or newer aluminum case. It's 40 pounds lighter. The Powerglide was used for over 20 years. It was phased out in 1973 when the 3-speed Turbo 350 replaced it. But drag racers still use the Powerglide today. Why? It's lightweight, less than 100 pounds. It has minimal rotating mass. It's simple, fewer parts to break. The Powerglide is not magic. It's a 2-speed transmission. You lose efficiency on the highway. You lose acceleration in second gear. But if you're building a dedicated drag car, the Powerglide is still the best option. Strength rating, 400 horsepower in stock form, over 1,000 horsepower when built, but 2 speeds weren't enough for the muscle car era that was coming. Turbo 400, 1964 to 1990s. The Turbo 400 is GM's heavy-duty 3-speed transmission. It was used in Buicks and Cadillacs starting in 1964, Chevys and Oldsmobiles starting in 1965. The TH400 was used on trucks, large displacement engines, high-torque applications, and full-size cars with towing packages. It was rated at 450 pound-feet from the factory. It was used in Jeeps, Jaguars, Rolls-Royces, and even one Ferrari. The Turbo 400 is heavy. It has heavier internal rotating mass than the Turbo 350. It uses a few extra horsepower just to spin the internals. If you don't have a powerful engine, use the Turbo 350 instead. But if you're making serious power, the Turbo 400 is the 3-speed you want. Strength rating, 450 pound-feet stock, over 1,200 horsepower when built. But not every car needed a transmission built like a tank. Turbo 350, 1969 to mid-1980s. The Turbo 350 replaced the Powerglide. It was used in medium-duty cars and light-duty truck applications from 1969 until it was phased out in the mid-1980s. Internally at GM, the Turbo 350 was called the 3-speed Powerglide. It shares design elements with the Powerglide but adds a 3rd gear. The Turbo 350 can handle about 400 pound-feet of torque in stock form. It's lighter than the Turbo 400. It's more efficient. It's easier to find in junkyard. For most street cars and mild performance builds, the Turbo 350 is enough. Strength rating, 400 pound-feet stock, 600 to 700 horsepower when built. Then, the 1970s oil crisis changed everything. 204R, 1981 to 1990. The 204R was GM's first 4-speed automatic overdrive transmission. It launched in the 1981 Corvette. It was later used in the Buick Grand National. The 204R has a bad reputation. Early mainstream applications failed frequently, but this transmission came out in the early 1980s when horsepower numbers averaged just over 100. In stock form, the 204R is good for about 300 horsepower, but it can be built for over 700 horsepower. The 204R is ideal for swapping with a Turbo 350 or Powerglide. The overall length is the same. It's almost a direct drop-in. Fourth gear is overdrive, about 30% overdrive. This means on the freeway, your engine spins 30% slower than a 3-speed transmission. The 204R also features a lock-up torque converter. This allows direct connection through the transmission, no slip, lower RPM, cooler transmission temperatures, better fuel economy. If you're doing a Gen 1 or Gen 2 small block swap, the 204R is acceptable. But if you're doing an LS swap, go with the 4L80E. Strength rating, 300 horsepower stock, 700 plus horsepower when built, but the 204R was too small for full-size trucks and V8s. 700R4, 4L60, 1982 to 1993. The 700R4 launched in the 1982 Corvette. It's a 4-speed overdrive transmission used on rear-wheel drive cars and trucks. It was used behind 305s, 350s, and even 454s. The Blazer, Suburban, Corvette, Camaro, and Impala all used this transmission. In stock form, it's good for about 350 horsepower. Like the 204R, the 700R4 has about 30% overdrive in fourth gear. It also features a lock-up torque converter. In 1990, GM changed its transmission nomenclature. The 700R4 became the 4L60. The name changed, but the transmission remained exactly the same for a few years. The 700R4 and early 4L60 are hydraulically controlled, no electronics. This makes them easier to swap into older vehicles. But here's what they don't tell you. The 700R4 has a weak point. The input shaft in the sun shell can fail under hard acceleration or high torque loads. If you're building a high-performance application, the 700R4 is not the answer. Use the 4L80E instead. Strength rating, 350 horsepower stock, 500 to 600 horsepower when built. Then, in 1993, GM added electronics, 4L60E. 1993 to 2013, the 4L60E launched in 1993. It's the electronically controlled version of the 700R4. The core internals are the same, but the valve body and actuation system are now controlled by electronic solenoids. The 4L60E was used mainly in light-duty half-ton trucks and car applications. This is the most common GM transmission. It's everywhere. Junkyards are full of them. But it's also the most common failure. The 4L60E has the same weak points as the 700R4. Input shaft failures, sun shell failures, valve body failures. If you're swapping a 4L60E, expect to rebuild it or replace it within 100,000 miles if you're making over 400 horsepower. Strength rating, 350 horsepower stock, 450 to 500 horsepower when built. GM knew the 4L60E couldn't handle the LS engine family. 4L65E and 4L70E, 2001 to 2013. The 4L65E and 4L70E are strengthened versions of the 4L60E. They were designed to handle the increased power of the LS engine family. The 4L65E and 4L70E have 5-pinion planetary gear sets instead of 4. They have hardened input shafts. They have a few other improvements, but the changes are minimal. These transmissions are still based on the 700R4 architecture. The 4L65E was used on 6.0L engines. The 4L70E was used in the Trailblazer SS. Strength rating, 400 horsepower stock, 550 to 600 horsepower when built, but if you wanted real strength, you needed the heavy-duty option. 4L80E, 1991 to 2009. Now, this is where it gets expensive. The 4L80E is GM's first electronically controlled heavy-duty transmission. It's an overdrive evolution of the Turbo 400. It's much more capable than the 204R or 700R4. The 4L80E was used in some half-ton trucks depending on options. It was used in all heavier-duty applications: 3/4-ton trucks, 1-ton trucks, Suburbans, vans. It was in production from 1991 to 2009, and even beyond in some low-tech commercial vehicles. GM officially rated the 4L80E at 440 pound-feet. Most builders say it's safe to around 450 horsepower in stock form. The 4L80E is 70 pounds heavier than the 4L60E family, but it's worth it. If you want to modify your engine, drive aggressively, or go off-road, the 4L80E is the 4-speed transmission you want. It's bulletproof. There's a Transgo reprogramming kit for the 4L80E. It's essentially a performance shift kit. It eliminates or reduces many common problems. It does not require transmission removal. It fits all 4L80E transmissions from 1991 and up. It's a must for worn-out or junkyard-bought transmissions. Strength rating: 450 horsepower stock, 700 to 800 horsepower when built, over 1,000 horsepower with serious upgrades. Then GM made it even stronger. 4L85E, 2002 to 2007. The 4L85 is an upgraded to 4L80E. GM officially rated it 20 pound-feet above the 4L80E. The main difference is the planetary gear sets. The 4L85 has 5 pinion gears versus 4 on the 4L80E. It's a beast. It's a great choice for heavy vehicles, off-road racing, or drag racing. You can find the 4L85E in the big block Chevrolet Avalanche, Suburban, Yukon, and heavy-duty vans from around 2001 to 2006. GM Performance also offers an aftermarket Supermatic 4L85E rated at 690 pound-feet. Strength rating: 500 horsepower stock, 800 to 1,000 horsepower when built, but 4 speeds were becoming obsolete: 6L80 and 6L90 from 2006. The 6L80 6-speed automatic transmission debuted in the 2006 Corvette. A year later, it appeared in GM's all-new 2007 full-size SUVs. The 6L80 has 2 overdrive gears. This reduces engine RPM by 9% at 60 miles per hour compared to 4-speed transmissions. At 60 miles per hour, you're now cruising at 1,500 RPM instead of 1,650. GM claimed a fuel economy increase of 4% compared to 4- and 5-speed automatics. The 6L80 also cuts 0 to 60 times by as much as 7%. That's like reducing a 7-second 0 to 60 to 6.5 seconds. The 6L90 is the heavy-duty version of the 6L80. It was used on trucks and some performance cars. It shares about 75% of its parts with the 6L80. The case is a bit longer due to wider and stronger gear sets. The 6L90 has a 34 spline output shaft versus the 6L80's 32 spline shaft. Here's the problem. The 6L80 and 6L90 are fat and tall. The height is mostly below the shaft center line. This means the pan hangs down very low. These transmissions won't fit in many classic cars unless you do serious metal work, but they are easier to fit in classic trucks. Strength rating: 6L80 is good for 400 to 450 horsepower stock. 6L90 is good for 500 to 550 horsepower stock. 6 speeds weren't enough for modern fuel economy standards. 8L90 from 2015. GM began using the 8-speed 8L90 for the 2015 model year. It appeared in the Corvette, Camaro, Silverado, and Escalade. GM was able to fit all the 8-speed parts in the same space as the previous 8L90. They also used more aluminum and magnesium to make it 8 pounds lighter. GM claims the 8L90 is up to 5% more efficient than the outgoing 6-speed. The 8L90 features performance algorithm shifting. It monitors how you're driving and shifts more aggressively if needed. It also has driver shift control. This allows the driver to shift the transmission like a clutchless manual gearbox with electronic safeguards. At launch, GM claimed the 8L90's wide-open throttle upshifts execute in 0.08 of a second, quicker than the Porsche 911 dual-clutch transmission of the day. But there's a problem. There was a class action lawsuit against the 8L90. It allegedly has serious issues. GM has issued 13 technical service bulletins related to this transmission. Beware. Strength rating, 500 horsepower stock. Long-term reliability unknown. Then, GM and Ford partnered on the most advanced transmission ever built. 10L80 and 10L90 from 2017. GM's 10-speed transmissions were a joint GM-Ford collaboration. Together, they made two 10-speed transmissions, one for rear-wheel drive, one for front-wheel drive. For GM, the 10-speed first appeared as the 10L90 on the 2017 650-horsepower Camaro ZL1. 10 forward speeds, 3 overdrive ratios. The 10L80 launched in 2018. It's used in SS Camaros, trucks, and SUVs. It's a super modern transmission with paddle shifters and launch control. The 10L80 is rated at 590 pound-feet, about 100 less than the heavy-duty 10L90. Here's what swappers need to know. The 6 speeds will swap onto LS engines, but the 8 and 10 speeds will not. To swap an 8 or 10-speed transmission, you need a Gen 5 LT small block engine. People are starting to swap these now, but it's complicated. Strength rating, 10L80 is good for 550 to 600 horsepower stock. 10L90 is good for 650 plus horsepower stock. All 15 GM automatic transmissions explained. Which one lasts longest? Here's the answer. For 3 speeds, the Turbo 400 is the strongest. It can handle 450 pound-feet stock, over 1,200 horsepower when built. It's heavy, but it's bulletproof. For 4 speeds, the 4L80E is the strongest. It can handle 450 horsepower stock, over 1,000 horsepower when built. It's the transmission you want for LS swaps and high-performance applications. For 6 speeds, the 6L90 is the strongest. It can handle 500 to 550 horsepower stock, but it's tall. It won't fit in most classic cars without major surgery. For 8 and 10 speeds, the data is still emerging. The 8L90 has documented issues. The 10L90 is too new for long-term reliability data. If you're building a project car, here's what you should do. If you're swapping a Gen 1 or Gen 2 small block and want overdrive, use the 204R or 700R4. They're acceptable for mild builds. If you're swapping an LS engine and want reliability, use the 4L80E. It's heavier, but it's worth it. If you're building a drag car, use the Powerglide or Turbo 400. Simple, lightweight, proven. If you're buying a used truck, avoid the 4L60E unless it's been rebuilt. Avoid the 8L90 unless it's under warranty. Which transmission would you choose for a 500 horsepower LS swap? Drop a comment below. Subscribe for weekly transmission and engine protection playbooks. This is Gastail.